Hi everyone, and welcome to this second video on how to get started into film photography. In this video we're going to talk about these lenses. What are they useful for and which one should you get? Let's check this out. The first lens you want to get is probably this one, the 50mm or the Nifty 50, also known as the standard lens. Standard because back in the 70s and the 80s it used to be the lens that came with the camera from the factory. It's a gold standard and it's one of my favorite lenses for a few reasons. Let's talk about these. The first reason why I like these lenses is it gives you the same perception of distances than the human eye. Right now I'm looking at the video camera, but if I'm looking through the viewfinder of this film camera, the camera doesn't appear to be further away or closer than what it is in real life. So it's pretty useful, it's polyvalent. The second reason I like this lens is its big aperture. I'm not going to go through all the technicalities of aperture in this video, but we can say that a big aperture lens allows you to take pictures in darker lit rooms or situations like concerts, interiors or nighttime. Plus, the bigger aperture allows you to get what we call the bokeh, just like this. The background gets all blurry and your subject literally pops out. It's a very affordable lens. You can get one of these for around $100, brand new. And if you go with the second-hand market, it's gonna be even cheaper. And last but not least, the image quality is just stellar. So, what's not to like about this lens? Nothing. The second type of lens I'm going to talk about is this one, the wide angle, and its name makes it pretty obvious. It's a wider angle lens. Usually people think it's a good landscape lens, and it is, but there's more to that. Just look at this. This picture was taken inside a small elevator cabin, and I was able to capture the whole scene. If you get closer to the subject, you will get some deformations, distortions, just like with this classic car. Yeah, that's a classic European car, and it looks nice. Another good feature of wide-angle lenses is that they allow you to maximize the depth of field. So a lot of things in the picture are going to look like they are in focus, which is pretty handy sometimes. We usually consider that a wide-angle lens has a focal length under 35mm. Means that 28, the 24, the 20 and the 16mm are the most popular. Now I'm going to give you a personal tip. You see, a lot of people are talking about wide angles and they say the 24mm is like the gold standard. Supply and demand makes it a pretty expensive lens. And not a lot of people are talking about the 28mm, which is not that different. Just have a look. This is a picture taken with a 24mm lens and the same picture with a 28. As you can see, there's not much of a difference, but the price of a 28mm is going to be half what it is of a 24. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal if you want to try a wide-angle lens and not spend too much cash on this. Now let's talk about this one, the Telephoto Lens or Tele lens. Tele, just like in television or telegraph, means something that is far away, and it's a pretty interesting lens if you want to capture a subject that is out of your reach, just like this one or this one. We usually consider that a lens is a telephoto one when its focal length is over 75mm. Around 85 up to 135 we call these short telephoto lens, aka portrait lens. Why? Because there are some for portraits. You can take close-up pictures of someone's face with a nice blurry background, again the bokeh, and the image quality is pretty high. Plus, these lenses, they have a very wide aperture usually, so they are also pretty interesting for low light situations. Over 135 is what we call a classical tele lens, and it's used for wildlife or sports photography, among other things. Once you go over 300 millimeters, we usually consider these lenses to be super teles, and yeah, they're pretty useful for bird photography, among other things. One last type of lens I want to mention in this video is this one. It's a macro lens. The difference between this and the Nifty 50 is that the Nifty 50 is able to focus up to 50 centimeters. This one is able to focus up to 24 centimeters. That's way closer than what you may think. And what's interesting with macro lenses is that they allow you to take pictures of everyday items we do not see in this angle. Plus, the image quality is just stellar. I mean, this micro knicker here is probably the best lens I've ever owned. Oh, one last thing, and it's an important one. Now that you know which lens you may want to buy, it's important that you get a lens that's going to work with your camera. Otherwise it would be useless. And that's why we need to talk about the lens mount. You see, the lens mount is the way you attach the lens onto your camera, and if they are not compatible, they won't work well together. Or in fact, they won't work at all. Sadly, there is no such thing as a universal lens mount, although they tried in the 1960s and 70s with the M42, which was used by Pentax, Yashica or Praktica and many others. But this lens mount became obsolete in the mid-70s, so no, there is no such thing as a universal lens mount.
But what about adapter rings?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, you see, adapter rings have been around for a very long time, and they became very popular in the early days of digital photography with DSLRs, because you were able to use your old lenses from your old film camera onto your brand new DSLR. But it always meant that you would lose some functionalities, and honestly, I would recommend these with modern mirrorless digital cameras, but with film cameras, well, they don't work, and sometimes they don't even exist. So the adapter ring is a good idea, but not that good. And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something about lenses, prime, zoom, wide angles, etc. And that it will help you decide which lens you should get for your film camera. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. As always, thanks for watching and catch you next time. Goodbye.